Hey everyone, so I wanted to give you a little bit of a video introduction to the city of Haifa. Talk a little bit about what brought me here, and more specifically what the vibe is like, the setting, the amenities, the people, accessibility, education, etc. The vibe, pretty warm, pretty laid back place, kind of chill. Look at the background. It's mountainous, that's the setting. And if we go all the way around, voila! You got the beach back there. So it's got a beachy, chill, laid back type of vibe. And the setting is mountainous and beachy. Not a bad place to live. The people are pretty cool. Generally speaking, very friendly, pretty sociable. I don't even know if that's a word, but I hear people use it all the time, so I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway. What does the city have in way of amenities with respect to things like theaters, doctors, etc.? Haifa has a number of wonderful malls that people love to go to. People in Israel love their malls, and Haifa's no exception. So there's the mall at Chorev, there's the Grand Canyon, there's the mall all the way down by the Matam. There are a few malls in Haifa. They're all lovely. They're all absolutely chock full of different, retail options, if that's your thing. I'm personally not the biggest mall person, but if I were to be one, I think I'd find it relatively satisfactory. There's plenty of options when it comes to that sort of stuff. Doctors, there's plenty of doctors in Haifa. Haifa is the third largest city in Israel, and like any large city, as you would expect, there are hospitals and doctors. Haifa's got 3 hospitals very close by to where I'm standing right now. One of them is Carmel Hospital. It's just behind us, literally about a 5-minute walk. Another one is Rambam, which is a little bit further away. And a third one is Bnei Zion. They're all very well-known hospitals in Israel. And Haifa is reputed for having some of the best healthcare amenities and services in the country, for good reason. 3 wonderful hospitals, tons and tons of doctors, plenty of choices for medical care. Let's see, Haifa is one of the most accessible places, I think, in the entire country. That's just my opinion, but it's one of the things that I looked for when I was making a decision on where I wanted to live. I wanted a place that was extraordinarily well connected, both from a public transportation, public infrastructure perspective, and highways and roads. So if we do a little spin around again, don't want to make anybody too dizzy, but if you look right there over my shoulder, you'll see one of the main roads that leads into Haifa. There it is. And it goes up into Haifa and down in the other direction, way out to the beach, to the coast, and to the coastal highway, which is right there. Incidentally, what you probably can't see along this coastal highway is another transportation feature of Haifa, the rail. So there is a rail link that goes from right around there, which is Chof Carmel, straight down to Tel Aviv. In the mornings, there's an express train running a couple times an hour. It makes one stop between here and Tel Aviv if you get on the slower express train, and it goes from here direct to Tel Aviv if you get on the faster one. The direct nonstop, I think, is once an hour, but don't quote me on that. The schedules might have changed. I haven't taken it in a while because of the pandemic situation. So really fast, only takes about, if you go on the nonstop, from when you board the train until you arrive at Tel Aviv, about 42, if I remember, minutes flat, which for people coming from the United States, anywhere in the Northeast or anywhere else that you had to commute, for work or anything of that nature, 42 minutes on the train is literally nothing. For Israelis, it's a little bit long. I think Israelis in general are not used to commuting too much. They generally, apparently, like to live closer to wherever it is they work, because the notion of a 45-minute or a 1-hour commute in each direction every day for most Israelis is something that they find not very attractive. Highways, what you can't see, I can't point to because it's behind that mountain, is the highway linking the other side of the mountain. I live in Ahuza, which is a lovely, beautiful neighborhood facing effectively southwest So the beaches and the roads that I showed you are all sort of southwest facing. And there's another side to the mountain, which is the northeast side. And on that side, there's another number of major arteries that lead up into the mountain, which is where most of the city of Haifa is. It's up on the mountain. That's where everybody lives. On the other side, down in what's known as the Krayot, is still part of Haifa, but very, very different situation. So on the other side, there's a number of highways that lead in and out, so very, very well connected, and you can get on what's known as Kvish 6, which is one of the major public infrastructure projects in Israel. It's the really large highway toll road. Everybody uses it for rapid transit in a car between here and other major cities in Israel, because it's generally a little bit less congested than the beach highway, because the beach highway is free. I think also the beach highway is just a lot prettier, so maybe people like to take that. I personally do. I take the beach highway over Kvish 6 all the time. But the other side of the mountain is very easily connected to Kvish 6. And then there are the Carmel tunnels, which are relatively new, and they kind of bored a hole right through the underside of the mountain that allows you to go from the beach side on the west to the east side of the mountain in literally like under 2 minutes, which is pretty cool. So from a transportation, public infrastructure, and buses, so not only is the train very accessible here, but the bus, the public transport situation from a busing perspective is phenomenal. You can get absolutely everywhere in Haifa on the bus, including to the train. If you happen to live up here on the mountain and you want to go to the train, you just jump on any one of the numbers of buses that go down to the Tachana, which is the central bus station in Haifa, and that is located directly across the street from the train station, and there's a tunnel that connects the bus station to the train station. You just walk right under it. It's a 2-minute walk, and you go from the bus to the train, and there you are. So from as I was saying before, a public transportation, public infrastructure, road infrastructure, highway infrastructure perspective, I think Haifa just kind of has it all. There just aren't that many places in Israel that you can go from being on the beach, which, as you know, is right there, as I showed you a couple of times, being on the beach, to being in your apartment within 10 minutes, literally, on a mountain overlooking the water with unlimited views. There's just very few places in Israel that you kind of can find that combination, that also happens to have a very healthy, robust, larger city feel and vibe, while not being nearly the size of either like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. Haifa is smaller than both of those from a population perspective. Not incredibly smaller, but smaller, and you can definitely feel it. It's certainly smaller, and it's nice. I think it's wonderful. It's one of the reasons I chose to live here. So education, there's an unlimited number of education options depending on what you're looking for. If it's for your children, obviously there's the school system here. My children are in the school system here. You can take your pick. You can put them in religious Haredi public school system. You can put them in the non-religious public school system, or you could put them in private schools. Haifa is renowned for one of its private schools, the Reali School, which is a non-religious private school, but known all throughout the country for producing some of the best candidates for some of the most elite intelligence-driven units in the army, and for candidates that ultimately go on to enter the next of the best technological and educational institutions in the country, the Technion, which is also in Haifa. The Technion is on the other side of the mountain. It's about an 8-minute drive from where I'm standing. Again, thanks to the fantastic public road infrastructure, it's a very, very quick commute. So the Technion is on the other side of the mountain. Then at the top of the mountain, you hear those jets? We're not going to look for them. I just wanted to point out. The top of the mountain, let's see, can we see it? Let's see if we can find it. It's like not too far from that building there. You probably can't see it, but it's like right in the distance. Would be the top of the Haifa University building. Haifa University is situated right at the very top of the Carmel Mountain, Probably the most incredible views of any university campus I've ever visited in my life. So you have the Technion on the other side, you have Haifa University, you have the public school system, you have a private school here, which is very well reputed and very sought after if that's your thing. You have the Haredi schools, and as far as education, that's pretty much all that I'm aware of, although I'm sure there's other things that I don't know about. Housing is plentiful in Haifa, and one of the more important reasons that people choose Haifa, myself included, is because housing here is extraordinarily affordable. You can get housing here for roughly a third of the price that you pay in either Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. And as I mentioned, Tel Aviv is only a 43-minute, 42-minute train ride from here. So if you're willing to commute a little bit and you're willing to look for, value, which is something I think that everybody is probably focusing on these days, Haifa kind of can't be beat. The apartment that I managed to rent here would probably cost, somewhere around 3 to 3.5 times the price in either Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, so either one of those central cities. And there's plenty of housing stock to choose from. You can choose from very new apartments, you can choose from somewhat dated apartments, or you can choose from housing stock that it's in the relatively older buildings that have not been renovated or upkept. It's just a question of either budget or your desire for, savings on a monthly basis. So that's it, I think, with respect to Haifa. To sum it up, the vibe is pretty awesome. It's a warm, laid-back vibe. The setting is mountainous, in front of the beach, which is not something many East Coast Americans are used to. It's very flat in front of the beach usually there, but if you're from the West Coast in California, you're very accustomed to this type of setting. Mountains right into the ocean. Couldn't be more beautiful or spectacular. Temperature-wise, same as everywhere around Israel. It's a little bit cooler in the winter up here, a few degrees, which is nice. It's refreshing to have a change of seasons. And from amenities, you have theaters, you have malls, you have medical facilities, you have doctors. The people here are very cool. You have multiple universities. There's a great campus culture here, depending on where you live. Lots and lots of families. It's highly accessible from a public and private transportation perspective. A plethora of education options, and the housing is extraordinarily attractive from a value perspective and also plentiful. So, hope to see you in Haifa.